folks, staying with Daybreak, we're getting into that conversation around the public service and accountability as well. We told you can weigh into the discussion. The question we're asking is, how can we enhance accountability in the public sector? That is the question we'd like you to respond to. 22422 is SMS line, at Trevor Mbija, at Waiga Moura, at Zinzi_K, at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. How can we enhance accountability in the public service sector? And here's why. We want to put it into context so that you know what we're talking about. Let's just pick randomly just a few issues that came up. First up, and we'll show you the Likoni ferry tragedy. Yeah, almost 10 days now, still searching. Nothing is going on. There's another one that happened on 29 September 2019. And they're right there. Then the Precious Talents Top School collapse, 23rd September this year. 11 rhinos dead in botched relocation, July 2018. Solai Dam tragedy, 9th May 2018. Has anything been done? 44 people lost their lives at that point. Did anyone take accountability? Compare this to that, Wahiga.
That's right. We have lessons on, I can say, moral and political responsibility. In the United Kingdom, we all know that familiar story, a British lord who last year tendered his resignation for coming late to Parliament. Of course, the person he tendered the resignation to said, I can't take this. So he's still working, but that was a very bold move. In Finland, a headline, a government resigned after healthcare reforms failed. I mean, for Kenyans, that trended and it was hard to believe. But we have many other incidents. We know that back in the UK as well, in 2018, a sports minister resigned after a delay to a betting crackdown. And she did resign and she's no longer holding that position. She's not interested because she was very concerned about the effect of betting on people in that country, and she felt the government was moving too slowly on that. And finally, in Japan, nuclear power plant managers, and this is a case that's been going on for a long time, they were charged with professional negligence after a tsunami caused the reactor to overheat, and they were taken to court, and I think they were found not guilty this year from the time that tsunami actually happened a couple of years back as well.
But still, that enhances, shows how far accountability goes. It's Mother Nature's wrath, but you still must be held accountable. Are we accountable enough? That is where we start. Ocean.
This country has had a history of leaders who clung to office until they were pushed out of office. It speaks to the original thing I said about conscience. We long killed our conscience, and public service has become a job, not a service to the public. It has become a place where people grow their stature as opposed to build the public, ensure that the public feels safe, work for the public. If you understand that you are mandated by the public to sit in that office, then it would inform you when the public has lost confidence in you. But until you do that, if you think that you're just an appointee of the president, and you forget that the president has put you in that docket because he himself has been elected president courtesy of the public, and that you work at the behest of the president, but even greater, the public, then leaving and quitting office becomes a problem. And our leaders do not have the ability to assess that or understand that. Look at the MD for Kenya Ferry Services. Instead of just saying that what has happened is an indictment on my leadership, because I did not ensure that every ferry at least has a diver to help get someone out in an emergency. I did not ensure that every person using a vehicle in the ferry is informed as they get into the ferry, which is a standard procedure whenever you're traveling on water. One, ensure that you're able to locate where the life jackets are. Two, if you're in a car getting into a vessel, lower all the windows and get your seatbelt off and buckle. Now, because you're the leader and you've ensured that this doesn't happen, you wake up every morning, you're in charge of that ferry, you go there, you see and do nothing about it. There is no chain, nyororo, to try and lock the cars at the two ends of the ferry, to just avoid the possibility of any car rolling backwards. Nyororo, 150 shillings, chain. And then you come and you are still in office. And that's where now I move to the next level. In the event that he did not take responsibility, why didn't the chair of the board demand his resignation, or the board itself? In the event the board has become culpable or an accomplice as well, why didn't the minister therefore take action?
Yeah.
You're the appointing authority, the PS. Why didn't you just send the guy home, suspended, awaiting investigation, or at least fired? Administrative action. I always allude to the point when the Judicial Service Commission felt that Gladys Boss-Sholay was complicit in the corruption goings on in the judiciary. They didn't wait for her to, oh, we will take you to court, due diligence. No, they fired her and said, let's meet in court. Administrative action. So if it hasn't happened at the bottom, and there isn't someone at the top who is demanding for action at the bottom, then how do we solve this? How do we make Kenyans even understand that you pay for being a joke?
Kiru, are we accountable enough?
Well,
and you've been in this service industry, you know this.
Yes, I think I will say again, the foundation of our culture emanates from our own society, and either percolates down from the leadership of the nation or is bottom up from the people themselves, expecting the highest of the leaders that they have. This has failed, and it has failed in the entire society. That's why you realize impunity has come back to town. It comes back to town in the sense that leaders themselves make statements that show that they don't care whatever you think of them, as long as they still hold those particular positions. Look at what is happening in all sectors of government. The Ministry of Health, for example, has 4,600 clinics that they are supposed to be NHIF compliant. Because we have a problem in NHIF for the last 1 year, not a single clinic has been made NHIF compliant. What happens? People cannot get the services they have been getting in some of the private clinics all over the country. This moves into so many other things that happen in government. This government, more than any other, has so many people in acting capacity, whether it's an MD, whether it's a director, almost in all that. When you put people in acting capacity, what you are doing is that you are making them vulnerable. You are making them not to make any critical decisions because they know their jobs are not secure, and therefore they can easily be manipulated. These are some of the ills that afflict our society, and unless we talk about them, we're likely to be here for many years. Now, in the traditional society, we had some norms that you knew this is the border beyond which you will be transgressing. Either the society will sanction you or your age mates will sanction you. Now we moved into the complex society that we have now, and there is total conflict because we are neither Christians nor are we traditional leaders.
Would you resign if a scandal hit your ministry?
Depending on the level of culpability.
What do you mean?
If there is somebody that I know is responsible for that scandal, I will deal with the person.
But you're the CS.
I'm the CS, but you see, there is always where to press the button. If I'm directly responsible, then that is a serious issue.
Could someone be under you and you're not directly responsible? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is there is a chain of command.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now,
the buck stops with you.
Yes, with me. But which action did I take to mitigate the situation? If I never took any action, then I sat on the job.
Shouldn't you just step aside regardless of the action that you took and then deal
How
with
about if my presence will ensure? And I'm not a CS for your information.
Yeah, you know.
But you see, if let's say like the ferry story.
Yes.
Yes, the Minister of Transport can take responsibility, but there is also the person who is supposed to have fixed the situation on the ground.
Yeah.
So he should be the one to be held accountable. But if it is the minister, like you remember the minister in Japan, there was an accident.
A train accident.
Yes. And he resigned because he could not face the public. Those are some of the issues that we need to elevate to the level that the entire society believes in. Our society is rotten. Whether you elect angels tomorrow, they are going to do the same thing this government is doing.
No.
Because our society does not believe. You know, as long as you still allow tribalism to pervade the atmosphere of Kenya, as long as you still allow impunity to pervade the atmosphere of Kenya, you cannot pretend you can have a better society. And these leaders that you are talking about, you elected them. And tomorrow you will go for another election, you bring the same individuals.
It's interesting that you bring up tribalism because, you know, in February 2009, Parliament adopted a report which accused you, as the former minister, of being behind a scandal which was, what, 3.2 billion shillings for the Pirateram Board of Kenya. At that point, you're the Kenyan envoy in Somalia.
Yes.
You did not resign, though.
Well, the accusation was false. Look at the original report. Don't take what is in the answered as the truth.
As gospel truth?
Yes. Look at the report itself. I was not involved whatsoever. I was not involved whatsoever. So you wanted me to resign as envoy because of a scandal that I was least involved. Pirateram Board has a long history. It has a long history. By the time we brought synthetics, pyrethrin, that was the beginning of the end of Pirateram Board.
Okay.
And that is even before I took over that particular ministry, almost 10 years before. The Johnsons, they brought pyrethrin, which is synthetic, and therefore the natural pyrethrin that we get from pyrethrum faced a lot of competition.
So then that ties into what you're saying, the chain of command, at what point, who was at which point, because you said most of these people are in acting capacity, so you can't even hold them accountable if a previous CS was there, and then there's a scandal that has spilled over.
Yes.
So doesn't that then make it much more difficult to hold any official accountable?
Yes, particularly there was fire in the studio, and I come two days later. Am I responsible for the fire?
So and this is what makes it difficult. And Charities, I need to come to you. I can see you really think. So we face a situation now where every civil servant will keep pointing to the next person. For example, you said I was not responsible.
Yes.
So there was a scandal in the Ministry of Agriculture, but you say I was not responsible.
Historically,
the person at the Kenya Ferry Services will now say it's the Coast Guard who should be, might say something like that, or it's the Navy.
But what has he done about the Coast Guard?
Might say, for example.
No, you see what Trevor said is something that we put it in context. What happened in Pirateram Board was 10 years before I took over the ministry. And subsequently, there was rollover up to the time that particular issue report was written. And the report itself, if you are to check properly, it had nothing to do with me whatsoever. It had to do with the chronology of events that took place in that particular board. Just like even another sugar, in 2001, there was a sugar scandal. And some individuals, for some extraneous reasons, wanted to involve me. And 2001, I was not the Minister for Agriculture. I took over 2003, early 2003. So some of these extraneous issues that we extract for purposes of politics, we should be able to distill those issues and allow the truth to be said. I'll take responsibility should I be involved.
We take responsibility. Okay, Charity, come in and tell us this. Both Osiani and Honorable Kipruto have taken time to basically paint a picture of the problem, but let's now understand the genesis of the problem. Is it the way public servants are hired? Is it the way they get into those offices? Is it the way they perceive those offices? Is it the way we as a society perceive a government job? That's the problem?
No, I don't. I wouldn't even know how to answer your question because it's somewhere in the middle. And I was reflecting when I was listening to my two colleagues. I was reflecting on how accountability has been weaponized in Kenya today. And accountability for me is more than a static event. You know, accountability as an expression has become as ubiquitous as corruption, where you just say accountability, corruption, corruption, accountability. You say it and nobody really knows what it actually means and where it starts, the continuum I was referring to. And my understanding of accountability today, because it's less to do with the human resources, when were you recruited, when were you elected, when were you appointed, but more once you are there, how is the issue of accountability used to either protect you or attack you? I will use the example of Aurora and Kimorer, the dams. I think it was absolutely high time that Rotich was arrested and removed. In fact, it should have happened a long time ago. But why, if you ask yourself specifically, was Rotich picked on? And why was he removed? Yes, you can link it directly to the salient issues around the dam and what he authorized on his watch, what went down. But if you go across all the ministries and you come to my pet peeve, Ministry of Energy, why do you still have, for example, Keter still CS? When you think about every single scandal every theft, every form of crony capitalism that has taken place in the energy sector that destroys the lives of Kenyans every day through high electricity bills, through dangerous service and so on. There is enough indicting information that if there was a consistent application of accountability at the very top,
which you say is the problem, that you're not seeing a consistent application
yes, so it's weaponized to, so right now we could argue we're having Tanga-Tanga Kieleweke wars, so it means that if you're in the Tanga-Tanga camp, the axe will fall on you very soon, and then accountability will be brought forward. And that's why this war on corruption is failing, or has failed, or is a non-starter, although I heard you yesterday, I heard you speak yesterday and you were very proud of the president. I'm not proud of the president at all, because I do not think in any way, shape or form he has gotten to the heart of the matter in terms of tackling corruption, and tackling corruption has that accountability theme as well. So whether CS Waziri, former Waziri, should have resigned and so on. I remember inheriting a $6 million deficit in an organization I once worked for. It happened not on my watch, but I had to deal with it. I had to deal with it as the overall accounting officer for that organization, and I had to deal with it in the way that I took responsibility even though I was not the cause. So even when you take responsibility, I do agree that there should be some forensic thinking through. Where did this happen? How did it start? When did it start?
Let me ask you this. Did you know about that debt before you got in?
No.
You get in day one or second month, third month, you find out that there's that debt. Why don't you just walk away? We heard of a person who was nominated to head Kenyatta National Hospital, a doctor.
Yes.
And they said, you know what? Whatever is going on there, I don't want to get involved.
But did you hear me say an organization I worked for?
So you left.
So this is so the point being that even if it is something that you inherit, you take responsibility, you're accountable at that point in time. What happens thereafter? If you look down the chain of command and say, so-and-so was responsible, this person must go, this person must face full sanctions. At some point, it may also be the case that you decide to remove yourself, or you are removed, or whatever happens, but there should be an accountability to the top, because if you diffuse it, if you decentralize accountability, if you devolve accountability, then everyone is responsible and no one is responsible.
No, I think taking responsibility, just before Gabriel jumps in, taking responsibility here must be deconstructed so that we understand it. I don't think Jerotich would have resigned for that debt that she didn't know about. Responsibility in this case is trying to find out who really was culpable for it and laying it out there bare, so that you're just not someone who came and covered the mess. But you know, you're not going to run away for it and say, okay, hang me on the cross. Trevor mismanaged these funds, but now I am the CEO after he has come. So no, it's not going to work like that. And about the president, as she says, I said yesterday, and I've said here before, that we have a president who has dared to start to fight the war against corruption. Dared. All right, when other presidents have come and gone, he has dared. It doesn't mean that corruption is going to end. It doesn't mean that the results have been, may have been something to write home about. He has dared to identify talent through the existing structures that led to a few people in office who are attempting to deal with the corruption menace. Has it been fought the whole hog? Not really. Have we achieved as much as we want? We are not even halfway there. But has someone dared to make this a big issue? And you thank the handshake for it. Because it was part of the 9-point. It was part of the 9-point agenda raised in the Building Bridges initiative, which I think we always want to trash and make it look like it sounds for nothing. But that is the place where all this fight against graft began. Now, there are administrative actions that we still expect from the president, like firing Keter, like going and asking Macharia, what the heavens are you still doing, having painted the road and we haven't seen much happening? You know, you started with BRT, now Kenya Ferry Services has not done so. There's still much expected from the president that he hasn't done.
We'll have to hold it there because
he has dared.
Okay,
I'm sorry for hitting into Gabriel's time. He's my brother. He can always
but this is good. This is good. Several years back, when Osiani would have been on my back, what president? What has he done? He's the most
The only thing is that the most objective.
No. Truth be said, I'll agree with you, with Osiani. Albeit the fact that we are still talking about scratching the surface, there are things that have been done. I personally have seen, and I like the fact that we've had serious people fired out of office. I've seen assets being seized. I've seen repatriation of funds. And like Osiani is saying, that's an attempt. All right. I have actually not been able to see any other president who has actually dared, like he used the word, who has really tried putting things into perspective. And when you're talking about accountability, I think this is a vast ocean of virtues, and the president cannot fight it alone. I don't think Mheshimiwa can fight it alone. Accountable structures, when they are erected, it is for every person to follow them, so that all of us as Kenyans can arrive at a station where we all be grateful for. But what I think has been happening, first of all, we need to shake our system of how we bring in leadership. I've had people talk about tribalism, but Wahiga and Trevor, we must continue asking the questions that need to be asked. How did we get there? That's one of them. For instance, even the issue of ferry that we're talking about, how did we get there? Have you ever seen, did you see the kind of experience and expertise that was scrambled when those two jets, the Boeing Max, when they went down, Ethiopian and Lion Air? They grounded entire fleets. That plane is still not allowed to fly anywhere globally. Why? Because everybody wants to know what happened. Today the ferry is still continuing. Nobody has asked, why did it happen? So it is a mosaic of people not coming to the platform of, yes, you know what? I played a role. And what role did I play? Because to me, if you ask me, it's either two things. It's either ignorance or illusion of knowledge. Somebody doesn't have a clue why he was there. Somebody doesn't have a clue why that car went in the river. And you know what? I've always said this. The condemnation that will come from you not doing something which you know to be right is actually worse than that which comes out of ignorance. Because ignorance actually can be understood. Because I will say, you know what? Trevor probably at this time doesn't know, but he will learn. But the fact that you are a doctor, an MD, having satisfied all the credentials, and you go to a hospital and you open somebody, a wrong patient, you open their skull and there are chains, there are structures, there are that would lead you to know that you're operating on the right patient. So who slept on the job? Yes, we can say the doctor was not involved, but have those structures been followed? Do we have somebody who's manning that gate, who ensures that what we are doing, at the end of the day, we will come to a result that we are all grateful for? You may have heard the tale of the farm tortoise. I don't know whether you've heard about that, where they say, a farmer came and found a tortoise, that was, stashed somewhere on a tree. And he asked himself, and he actually, was arguing with himself that, you know what, this is actually funny because one, tortoises do not climb trees. But how did he get there? Someone must have put it there. Someone put it there. So we need to ask, who do we put there? Because whoever put that tortoise there is so much mentally screwed than the person who found it. So that is the conversation we need to have. How did we get here?
How did we get here? Can we have that conversation on the other side of the break?
Yeah. We should. I think that's a conversation we need to have.
Something interesting that you've made me think about. Journalists broadcast their mistakes. Doctors bury their mistakes. Civil servants.
What do they do with them?
What do they do with them?
They bank them.
They pass them on someone else.
They bank them.
Or they bank their mistakes.
Or they bank their mistakes.
Should we take that break now?
Yeah, let's take that quick break.
We have a lot of feedback.
Should we read that after?
We can do it after. Okay.
Let's do that when we come back from the break. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're still talking about accountability and how do we enhance accountability in the public service sector. That's what we're asking you. 22422 at Trevor Mbija, at Citizen TV Kenya, at Waiga Moura, Zinzi _K, #Daybreak.